Today I'd like to show you guys a new drawing tool. It's called the Pathfinder. Unlike the pen tool, it doesn't take any manual dexterity at all. It's more sort of a brain teaser kind of a thing, figuring out how to use it. It's good for doing things that the pen tool can't do, different kind of drawing sort of. So to find the tool, you have to go to Window. It's a palette that doesn't show in the Essentials Classics workspace anyway. Window Pathfinder, okay? So they call it the Pathfinder, but it's really Illustrator's Boolean tool. Every computer graphics program has some kind of Boolean tool, and what Boolean means in the computer graphics context is when you take two or more shapes and add them to each other, or use one to cut the other, or subtract one from the other. Shapes acting on each other, right? And for whatever reason, they've called it the Pathfinder, which is sort of I guess Boolean sounds kind of weird, but in the computer graphics world, everybody knows what that is. And Pathfinder is just a weird name. But anyway, that's what they called it, so we'll call it that too. Now, there's all these buttons here, all right, in two groups, shape modes and pathfinders. But you can do 99% of what you need with just 3 of the buttons. So I'm only going to show you 3 buttons. I have a handout that I'll post in Blackboard that has all the other ones described also, if you want to know. But really, all I care about is that you know these 3, right? It's the first 2 in the top row. Add and subtract. Think of it as add and subtract. They occasionally change the names back and forth on this tool. At the moment, it's unite is add and subtract is minus front, okay? Because it subtracts all the top objects or front objects from the single backmost object, okay? Add, subtract, or unite and minus front. And then this one down here is divide, right? The difference between these 2 rows is the bottom row always leaves a group that you have to ungroup afterwards. And the top row, if you do it certain ways, like it says in the little tooltip there, Alt-click, it will leave a compound object that so like all the original shapes are still there, so you could edit it later if you wanted to. I almost never use it that way. And I'm not going to, generally with this, you just want to make the shape and you don't really need to keep the sub shapes later. So I don't really bother with that. So to get a look at this, let's make some shapes. So I'm getting get rid of the pen tool, getting my shapes out here. And I'm going to make 3 different overlapping shapes. And you want to make sure that your stroke is turned on so you can, because some of this stuff isn't that obvious what's happening if the stroke's not turned on. All right, so maybe I'll just make this one. I'll make my stroke a little fatter so you guys can see it better. And let's see, I'll make a square, right? And a circle. Whoops. And maybe a star. And make it so they're all overlapping somewhat. All right, so there's kind of 2 basic rules when you're using the Pathfinder. One is that you have to have at least 2 overlapping objects selected, or it won't work. People always, they'll just click the top object and they'll click on all the Pathfinder buttons, try and figure out why nothing happens. And you have to have 2 things, right? It's about the relationship or interaction between 2 shapes. So I'm going to select all 3 of these guys. All right, so the first rule is you have to have at least 2 overlapping shapes selected. The second rule is if you click on a button and it doesn't do what you want, don't just go clicking other buttons, because a lot of the times it actually did something, it's just not obvious. So if you click on something and you don't see what you expected, make sure you undo and then try, regroup and try to figure out what happened. All right, so anyway, they're all selected, and I'm going to hit the first one, unite. Okay, so it unites them into one shape. Pretty straightforward. I'm going to Control Z to undo that. The next one I'm going to do is minus front. Okay, subtracts all the front or top objects from the single backmost object. Gives us this. Okay, and then the last one is divide. Okay, so, and this is why I said to turn on the stroke, because if you didn't have the stroke turned on, it wouldn't really be obvious that there are cuts in this shape. But there are now. So if I click off of it, you'll see that, like I said, the ones on the bottom row leave a group. So to ungroup it, I need to right click on it and ungroup. Okay. Now you'll notice that it still looks like it's stuck together, and that's just because I didn't deselect. So I'll just click on the background to deselect, and now I can pull things apart. All right, so you can see how you can make a lot of shapes, particularly with divide. But between these three, you can do all these other ones, and it's just easier to remember, less buttons, One nice thing about divide is that it makes a perfect cut, and as long as you don't fumble around and move something, you can heal them back together again with unite. So like if I select these three objects right here and do unite, now I've made that shape. Okay. All right, so that's it. The how to do it is simple, but it's kind of figuring out when and how to apply it that takes a little practice just to get your brain into the Pathfinder mode. So let's make some shapes, and we'll collect these shapes and put them on a page to hand in afterwards. So make sure you keep them as we do them. So let's see. So first off, let me try this thing. Okay. So I'll make a circle. I can make a logo that looks kind of like a logo. All right, so I made a circle, and I'm going to draw a long, skinny rectangle like this. Doesn't really matter what color these things are. And I'm going to do that thing. Remember, we made a grid of circles, Shift to constrain, Alt to copy, and then Control D to duplicate your last action. So I'm clicking that. I'm in the regular selection tool, right? I click and hold down. Remember, the mouse goes first. This is stuff we did a couple weeks ago, I guess. Mouse is held down. I'm holding Shift to constrain my movement, Alt to make a copy, drag down till it's a nice distance like that. Let go of the mouse, then the keyboard, and Control D's to duplicate your last action until you have a nice number, and then select all of them and minus front. Okay. Cool, right? So make that shape. You have to admit that would be hard to draw with a pen tool, right? So we need another kind of tool for doing this kind of thing. I'm just going to move that aside, and let's try another shape. Okay. So I'll do, and when you do these things, like if you're making a circle, remember, hold down Shift. This is a sloppy circle to me, right? That's an ellipse. And when you're holding Shift down, okay, make sure it's the Shift only matters when you let go of the mouse. So like if I let go of the Shift, I'm not constrained. If I hold down the Shift, I'm constrained. So you need to have the Shift depressed when you let go of the mouse. So all I got to remember is mouse goes first. Okay. So I'm going to make two circles, a bigger one and then a smaller one. And they don't have to be exactly, just kind of like that, about that size relationship. They don't have to be centered because we're going to center them. And I'm going to make a rectangle like this. I'm going to make sort of a, I don't know if this is a Celtic cross or what it is. Right? And I'm going to copy this one with Alt and then rotate it, put my cursor just off that corner bounding box handle until I see the rotate thing. Rotate, hold Shift down until it snaps to 90 degrees. Okay. Remember, we're in the regular selection tool, not the direct selection tool. This bounding box rotating and stuff won't work in this tool. All right, so let's select everything and let's horizontally and vertically align everything. Now, conveniently enough, the align palette is nested right in here with the Pathfinder, all right? So we want to vertically and horizontally center. So look at all these buttons here, okay? And I think you guys probably have it like that, right? So we're not distributing, that's evenly spacing, so we can get rid of these. And if you look at this top row, it's left, middle, right, top, middle, bottom. So we just want the two middle ones, right? Bada bing, bada boom. Okay. So it's all set up. This is the shape we want to make. Now, there is no, what we want to do is make it so this stuff in here is hollow, okay? And by the way, don't try to make it white. That's not, you know, it looks like there's a hole there, but it's just a white circle, right? So that's cheating and it doesn't work. But so we want to make it so this is hollow and everything else is united together, right? Now there is no single button, so we have to do two Pathfinders. So we select the two circles first, right? So I just marquee, so I hit the two circles, but not the rectangles, right? Just like this, and minus front. So that's not white, that's a hole now. And then I select everything and unite. There it is, okay? And it should be even and made out of real circles, and the two rectangles should be the same size. I'm just gonna move these guys off to the side. And like just an interesting example of a way you might use the Pathfinder is like if you wanted to make a barrel or cylinder shape, something I seem to have to do a lot when I'm rendering machines and things like that. I'm going to make a rectangle, okay? And I think for this, I'll turn on Smart Guides, Control U. You may already have them on, but oops, that's Windows Smart Guides. And I'm going to make an ellipse that's the same width as this thing, like that, right? I think that works. And I'll put one up at the top. Okay, and then one down. Then I'm holding down Shift and Constraint Alt to copy. Put one at the bottom. All right. So if I want to make a cylinder, all I got to do is select these bottom two things and unite. Okay, and then arrange, send to back. Pretty cool, right? And then if I wanted some kind of a shading on there, I just go to gradient and just fool around with the gradient a little bit. So it looks, whoops. So it's kind of cylinder-y looking. Right? Even if I take the stroke off there, it looks like a cylinder. Okay. You don't have to keep that. If you did it and you want to, you can keep it on there, but that's okay to just get rid of that. It was more like an example. Now, let's do another thing. Okay. I think I'm going to turn that Control U back off. Smart Guides back off. I think we did this when we were learning the align tool, where we aligned circles to the corners of a box. Let's do that again, and this might be a little tricky, but I think we can get it. So I put my stroke back on there, and I'm going to make this thing yellow. Okay, so make that yellow, and then make a red circle. Okay. Making sure you held down Shift for that, so it's really a circle, not an ellipse. Okay, and I'm going to make three more of them, and make them. What we're going to do is align them to the corners, and then use the circles to cut off the little corner bits to make a like a custom rounded corner rectangle, which would be great if there wasn't a rounded corner rectangle tool already, but anyway. This is also just showing you a way you can use the Pathfinder and also just more practice with the Align tool. Okay, so I'm going to select, and the reason I remember when you align something, like say to the left, it moves to the leftmost side of the leftmost object. And if I have one of these circles outside the rectangle is going to move, right? That's why I said keep all the circles inside, because you want the circles to move to the rectangle, right? So anyway, and this is practice just using marquee selection. So I select, so I have the rectangle and one circle, and I go left, top, rectangle, another circle, right, bottom, or top, okay? Rectangle and another circle, right, bottom, and the last one, left, bottom. Okay, so I used left, right, top, and bottom, but no middle, okay? Because middle, remember, that moves everything, so that would move your rectangle too, which you don't want. If you accidentally hit one of the middle ones, Control Z, okay? So like if I select these two and do middle, whoops, so Control Z, what we really wanted there was left, bottom, okay. All right, so this will only work if you use the Align palette, because what we're going to do here is we're going to divide, which will cut, since these should be lined up perfectly, we're going to use divide, which will cut these off, and then we'll delete them, and then we'll unite everything that's left over, okay? All right, so I select these guys, right? And then I'm going to go divide. Remember, you have to ungroup because divide leaves everything in a group. So just right click and ungroup, and then click on the background to deselect. All right, ready? Now, these guys, you can just pull them off or delete them. Okay, and then you select everything. This looks a little weird up here. Not sure what that is, but we'll see. As long as you didn't move something slightly, if you fumbled something a little bit, it won't glue back together perfectly. So you kind of got to be careful to not accidentally drag things when you click on them. Unite, and there it is. It worked.